Welcome back, everybody. Today's video is going to be a meta update along with the 7.36B has dropped. There are some significant hero changes, significant item changes, and we're just going to be talking about what we think the meta is right now and what we're going to be looking out for in our pub. So first and foremost, as we pull up the patch, they messed with vision sharing a bit. Basically, before, if there was a creep wave inside of like Mars ulti and stuff, it didn't work. So now it only works with observer wars and sentries. That's pretty much the TLDR of that entire thing. And then they reworked these in regards to Magnus and Spear Breaker. Spear Breaker amps how far you get moved, and Magnus reduces how far he gets moved. So that's the only thing these apply to. Don't freak out too much about it. If you're thinking too much, it just applies to those two heroes. So if you play those two heroes, study this rigorously, because it matters a lot. When it comes to item changes, they nerfed a lot of like the effective HP damage items. So Armlet no longer gives slow resistance. Blade Mail costs 200 extra. So basically we are back to like the Blade Mail tanky guy meta, but instead of like always being a Heart of Tarask, it was like Eternal Shroud Bloodstone. So they've nerfed Bloodstone, they nerfed Eternal Shroud pretty significantly, and they've also nerfed Octarine Core. These were kind of the items we were seeing along with Wind Waker that created these like unkillable heroes. When we look at the rest of the items, I don't see any significant changes other than maybe Helm of the Dominator giving experience and gold for the creep you take over, and potentially Crimson Guard for offlaners, maybe like Centaur, or potentially just like universal heroes that build HP but not so much strength. Overall, I don't think too much of this has changed, but the tanky hero meta is getting addressed. It's just a matter of how significant are these nerfs. So let's go ahead and pull up some neutral items. A lot of nerfs for the most part. Nerf, 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 nerf. And then there's like 3 buffs in here. Martyr's Plate, Orb of Destruction, and Lance of Pursuit. So basically right-click items early game and Martyr's Plate. I don't think there's too much to say about all of this other than if you notice, it's all of the items that kind of keep you alive or give you regen. Or in the case of Whisper of the Dread being a little bit too broken. But it's like regen, armor, strength, regen, armor, healing, mana. So yeah, those are all the items that got nerfed. That's clearly what they wanted to address when it came to the neutral items. So we're going to talk about some of the most significant hero changes. We're going to not go through all of them. First and foremost, some of the biggest nerfs of the patch. We're looking at Axe. One-man army got nerfed significantly. We see that his Coat of Blood innate also got nerfed. And now Berserker's Call really doesn't even give that much armor anymore. So Axe, significant nerfs. We see Dragon Knight getting pretty significantly nerfed because his health regen is just 2 less. This hero's always been hitting that like threshold where he can't get bullied out of lane, and they also nerfed 2 of his facets. Jug once again getting nerfed. If you look at this patch plus the previous one, you know, Jug had his 1 week of absolutely broken. He's probably just a mid-tier carry right now because of these nerfs. Legion getting even more nerfs as well. Same to Axe. Basically, these Blade Mail heroes not only got Blade Mail nerfed, but also their entire kit got nerfed. Phoenix was one of the most broken supports, even getting played in the offlane. They nerfed the Dying Light pretty significantly. Didn't even know it worked on illusions, to be honest. And they also nerfed the innate ability and the fire spirits in lane. So I think Phoenix was definitely overtuned. It felt almost impossible to lane into, especially as core. I'd been seeing carry players, myself included, getting absolutely dumpstered. It's honestly probably still pretty good. So if you haven't gotten the chance and you've considered in the past of playing offlane Phoenix, now is definitely a good time. So rip to a couple heroes of this patch. Some of the absolute biggest nerfs came with Dust Devil from Sand King, the thing that was making him absolutely broken. If you go from 650 to 450, that's like half of the area. It's not even half. Like, you're losing more than half. He went from Girthy Chode to Pencil Dick Sand King, and it no longer centers on you after you Burrow Strike, so it takes time for it to catch up to you at the 70% of your move speed. I'd say that this ability is insanely good for farming early game, and that's about it. They nerfed the Ags Bloodstone shit, and also the Eternal Shroud was a part of the build. So Sand King was absolutely obnoxious. They made it so the burrows no longer work if he's not in the Sandstorm. So they buffed this one, but I feel like basically what made Sand King good was that his Sandstorm moved with him. That's what made it good. So I'm not convinced that like Invis Sand King with a massive Sandstorm is any good, but maybe it's worth trying. I just feel like early game going from camp to camp and blowing them up because you have Sandstorm accelerates his game drastically. I honestly think the hero's laning stage going 114 is insane still, or maybe 203. His Stinger ability is insane. So I personally just played him today and rushed to Shiva's because Shiva's is just so expensive. That's usually why it's not bought. And Sand King farms so fast. So I'm not exactly sure how to get him to scale into the late game, but I'm under the impression it's items that throw you into the center and allow you to stay in there. So like BKB, Shiva's, maybe even like Radiance, Ags, Bloodstone type shit. But it's all about being able to be on top of them, fucking them up. And he can't really kite anymore. His team fight presence is less, but I think because of these things, BKB is absolutely essential. But I think the hero might still be really good. But what you knew as the previous Sand King that was wreaking havoc in your pubs for the last week, he's absolutely gone. I wouldn't try to consider still building him to play that way. Let me know if you guys have success with the Sand Shroud, because it just seems in theory that like it's not good. Shadow Shaman, huge nerfs all around to the Cluster Cluck. It was broken as fuck. They also made it so Hex no longer provides damage amp. It was 25%, then 35% with the level 10 talent, so that's a pretty huge nerf. And then they also made it that his shard basically only lingers for 1.5 seconds after you end the shackles. So if you want to use shard to clear creep camps or creep waves, you have to sit there channeling, which really sucks for this. So Shaman got some significant nerfs, and I think he's still viable, but honestly, huge nerfs all around. Storm Spirit received some sizable nerfs combining the last 2 patches. Probably still good, though. Void Spirit received some sizable nerfs. Just numbers. Nothing fancy. Wraith King, I think, has been officially gutted. They've just nerfed everything about him, basically. For the last but final, not least, winner of the nerfs has been Zeus. Most notably, you can no longer do the Manta Zeus build, and they nerfed everything else about the hero. So his laning stage with Static Field and Livewire, they nerfed his Lightning Hands, they nerfed Thunder's God's Wrath, they nerfed the cast range on Arc Lightning. So is Zeus still viable? I'm not actually sure, but I think what made Zeus absolutely broken was the Manta build that allowed him never show on creep waves, and Zeus is always the hero you want to jump, so now he's presenting himself again if he ever wants to farm, which has always been the weakness of Zeus that kept him in check, and I believe Zeus has been brought back down to earth despite being a god, pun intended, and I'm personally done playing Zeus for now, because these nerfs just seem astronomical. So we're going to talk about some big winners of the patch that at least I want to try. I want to be trying Bloodseeker. They've significantly increased how much HP he's getting from heal. They've also buffed loss of health from Blood Rage and Blood Riot. These things add up a lot. I still want to try Death Prophet. She also got buffed again. I actually haven't gotten the chance to play her. I think there's some viable builds with her 40 attack speed talent at level 10 and Ags. So maybe like a Witchblade Ags BKB kind of build. I definitely want to try the Faceless Void Time Zone now. It now pierces debuff immunity, so it actually can't be BKB'd off. And you're also leashed, so you can't force staff. Seems pretty broken in theory. I definitely want to try it. Before, if you could just BKB off, that feels like the entire purpose of Void was useless. So I'm definitely going to be trying Time Zone. I'm now convinced that I pretty much have to try Mirana. They've buffed Solar Flare significantly. They buffed it by like another 25% in terms of the attack speed and damage gained. By the end of it, you have 160 attack speed and 160 damage, and your team all has 80, and that lasts for 10 seconds. That's insane, to be honest. I'm going to try Core Mirana at some point. It seems pretty insane. I am going to be trying Slark again. We combine the leash mechanic not being able to be force-staffed off with the fact that Shadow Dance now has a 30-second cooldown. This, if you look at the patch notes, was 45 seconds before 7.36, and now it's 30 at max level. They also buffed the regen that you're getting. I honestly want to experiment with some like Ags Octarine build where you're playing off of pounces and 22-second cooldown Shadow Dance, and you're going to accrue essence shift stacks that way, because the pounce facet is now 4 stacks per pounce rather than 3 like in the old days. So if you combine that with like your level 20 talent, you're getting 16 agility every time you pounce somebody. You're also stealing their stats. So I do really want to try Slark with like a different build in mind, probably like similar build-up items like Diffusal or Mage Slayer into like Ags Octarine kind of thing, maybe with like one defensive item to remove silences if they have them. But overall, I feel like Slark, there's got to be a way to make use of this and abuse the super low cooldown of Shadow Dance. And I think items like Octarine and Bloodstone that like amp abilities up by cooldown reduction or area become better when abilities like go down in cooldown or when they go up in AoE. Like you want to play on the strengths of them rather than like You know, it doesn't feel good to buy an Octarine to reduce it to 30 seconds, but now the uptime of the spell is like 25% because it's 5 seconds and it's 22 seconds cooldown. So that's how I kind of view those items, and I really want to try Slark this way, and I'll let you guys know when I get around to it. Spectre, I'm definitely going to be giving her a shot at some point. This Forsaken seems broken. 12 damage, pure, on your right clicks when the enemy 2 heroes are not right next to each other. I just feel like in lane, most supports are not just hugging their cores, and it's 400 radius. Like, how often are the enemy 2 guys right next to each other? 12 damage. I think you take it level 1. That's pretty nuts, the trading potential of this. So I thought this was how this worked initially when 7.36 came out, and then this soul fragment had an insanely bad win rate, but now it is how it works. Like, I thought they removed the mana cost, is what I'm trying to say. And now they finally removed it. So I played a game of TB today, and I actually think TB can be insane with how fast he farms with his illusions now, but he's no longer a split pusher. So I'm thinking that if you combine the shard, which is insane when your melee form, it gives you 100 move speed, 100 attack speed, I actually think you become a melee hero later. So I'm going to be trying a few builds of Terrorblade. High stat gain, low base attack time. He still can split push in the mid to late game, meaning like clear a creep wave or 2, but it's really bad. Like, I wouldn't build for this, but it's like a nice little bonus of the hero. But your illusions in fights near you hit for 87% of your damage. So if you think about like blinking on top of people and abyssal blading them with like a manta, well, the manta won't hit for 87, it'll hit for like 50, but your conjure images as well, it's actually pretty insane. And you no longer have to build a mana regen item, which is honestly been a big problem on TB historically. I'm wondering if you have to go Mask of Madness. You do eventually have to get a Satanic, but I don't know if Mask of Madness is necessary. I think Terrorblade is incredibly viable on Dire, specifically because of the 7 HP regen up top. I'm going to be experimenting with him. I'm super excited and interested to see how this goes because it's just such a different hero. And it also sets up decent Sunder ganks. Like, you're not going to be the Armlet Dagon guy one-shotting people, but you come out of the jungle, you know, with 40% HP. And I think the fact that you go like Manta, BKB, Blink, you could even go like Yasha Blink, because you farm so fast and it allows you to actually set up Sunder gangs. I think there's a lot of potential here. Don't quote me on exactly what I'm going to build, but I think there's a lot of potential, and I think Blink Abyssal is going to be in your build at some point because you and your illusions are getting 100 attack speed and 100 move speed when you're melee. That is a shit ton. You're also low base attack time, so that 100 attack speed is beast. So, guys, that's my meta update for 7.36. We're going to be trying some of my favorite boys. We're going to be also experimenting with offlane Sand King. I also want to be trying offlane Batrider. When it comes down to mid, Death Prophet's going to be my #1 go-to. When it comes to supports, they also buffed Pudge. They buffed his hook being 15% faster and doing more damage with the facet based on travel distance. We didn't even mention that in the patch, but it actually looks really good. So I'm going to be trying that out. Check out that hook speed. And become a good, amazing hooker yourself. No shaming in this day and age. Thank you so much for watching, guys. That's what we're going to be trying our pubs. Keep me posted. Come to Twitch. Say hi. Twitch.tv/BananaSlamJamma. And let me know what's working for you, what's not working. If you've tried any of the builds that I've suggested and, you know, can elaborate or tweak them, that would be fantastic. Let's collaborate together and solve this meta before anyone else. Nobody's looking. None of the pros see this video because they wouldn't watch it. Thanks for watching, guys. See ya.